But also, when I first wrote Gypsy, the first picture I got back was this. Now, I had to dig for this. I had to look for it and find it. But that's the first picture she sent to me. Okay. In no way, shape, or form does she look like a little kid. No way, shape, or form. Okay? At all. That's the first picture I got when I first started talking to her. All right? I got sent that picture. In no way, shape, or form does she look like a kid. Okay? Our first meeting, I had to find this picture. There she was on our first meeting. When we decided to go be romantic, that's what she looked like the first day. Okay? That right there, that was our first meeting, and then we became romantic right after that. So when people say that I was attracted to her being a little kid and all that, that's just so ludicrous. Like, that is all woman right there. Gypsy's been all woman. My whole time I've known Gypsy, Gypsy was a woman, and she acted like a woman, and she was a woman. So I just want to point that out. So when people say some mean stuff and like hint around that I'm a pedo, I can't have that. That is so far from the truth, and it's ridiculous. And I just want to put that out there that I won't tolerate that. I won't.
Here's how everything truly unraveled. Ryan Anderson finally went live, and not just any casual live stream. This was the moment he had been hyping for days. If you've been following the intense back and forth between him and Ciro's Planchet, then you know this wasn't something to brush off. Ryan promised he'd expose the truth, and he absolutely did. Let's talk about how Ryan, armed with nothing but his voice and a perfectly timed dog named Pixie, completely flipped the script. He began by addressing his long silence, explaining that he intentionally waited until the second season of Life After Lockup had fully aired. He didn't want to disrupt the show's narrative while it was still unfolding, but once the finale dropped, he felt free to speak. What really pushed him to break that silence? According to Ryan, it wasn't just one thing. It was the mounting rumors, the constant online speculation, and the narratives being pushed by Gypsy and Hisako. He said he'd stayed quiet as long as possible, but once his name started being dragged too far through the mud, he had to speak up. Even if I don't owe anyone anything, he said, I still need to clear the air. He made it clear, this wasn't about Gypsy anymore. It was about protecting his peace. Then came a surprisingly raw moment. Ryan paused to thank the people who stood by him. Especially Team Ryan, those who supported him even during his silence. And just so no one could accuse him of bluffing, he came prepared: notes, timelines, bullet points. This wasn't an emotional rant. This was organized, deliberate, and unapologetically honest. One of the first rumors he addressed? The accusation that he was all creepy for calling Gypsy cute when they first connected. Ryan didn't hold back. He pushed back against those claims hard, clarifying that the first time he saw Gypsy wasn't in those old, unsettling images of her as a child under her mother's care. He said he hadn't even seen those photos back then.
It's been I wanted to let the second season air all the way. Oh, that's so cool. It's gonna be hard with these cool graphics. Whoever sent that one was pretty cool. Oh my God. These graphics are killing me, guys. These graphics are killing me. Anyway, all right, that being said, look, there are a lot of false narratives being put out all over socials. Okay, first I'm gonna start there. Well, I have for the large part, I have ignored them. All right, I try to ignore all the false narratives, and but some of them can't be ignored, guys. Like there's a couple that I have to talk on. All right, first off, I don't know anybody in explanation. First and foremost, I don't. I know that people are curious about things that happen, and y'all want to know the details. I get that. My life was on national television. I get that. But first and foremost, I have to protect my mental health. Okay, it's really hard being on national television like that, especially the way my private life unfolded on national television. It was never my goal for that to happen like that. Okay. First wrote to Gypsy. People talk about the comment of me saying, "Oh, she was cute." Okay, the way her mother had her looking, Gypsy was not cute. It was not. Like, it was so wrong on so many levels. Gypsy, the way her mother had her dressed and looking, no teeth, all that, it was so wrong on so many levels. And I'm not referring to that when I say that she was cute. I'm not at all. When I said she was cute, I was referring to her actually talking in the Mommy, Dead, and Dearest with the black and white, okay? And I thought she was cute in that part.
What he did see was the documentary Mommy, Dead, and Dearest, where she appeared, in his words, as a grown woman. That was the version of Gypsy he connected with, not a child, not someone vulnerable or manipulated. That distinction mattered deeply to him. And then, as if on cue, life delivered its own poetic punchline, the same photo of Gypsy that once made him feel something. His dog chewed it up, live, on camera. Ryan couldn't help but laugh. He didn't plan it, but it felt like the universe was making its own comment. From there, he explained why he decided to release those infamous texts, especially the one where Gypsy asked if he was seeing someone named Amber. According to Ryan, it was simple. She had already leaked his messages, so he was just presenting his side. But it wasn't just one or two texts. Ryan said Gypsy deliberately chose private exchanges that painted him as desperate, clingy, and obsessed, a man who couldn't let go. To him, it felt calculated, like she was trying to control the narrative. He stayed quiet for a while. But as more people began to buy into that version of the story, he felt the need to respond. Because the truth, he said, is that it was Gypsy who kept reaching out to him, texting him in the middle of the night, asking personal questions, clearly still emotionally connected. That double standard? He called it out. Gypsy was portraying herself as the victim while still keeping tabs on him behind the scenes. So, Ryan decided to set the record straight. Not just for the internet, but for her family, and for anyone still watching this unfold. He released the messages not to hurt her, but to tell the truth. He said he went public because people needed to see the full picture, one that didn't align with the version Gypsy had been presenting. If she could put his private texts on blast, then he had every right to share the context, and that's exactly what he did. But once those texts went live, Gypsy allegedly fired back in a way Ryan didn't see coming. According to him, she crossed a serious line, exposing deeply personal details about his medical history. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't speculation. This was private, sensitive health information. And even after everything that had gone down between them, Ryan said he was genuinely shocked. To him, it felt like a new low. But instead of reacting in anger, Ryan said he tried to handle it like an adult. He didn't drag her online. He didn't retaliate publicly. Instead, he reached out quietly to her father, hoping he could talk to her and get the post taken down discreetly. But even that backfired. The private messages he sent to her dad leaked.
So much to process. All right. I released that text, the Amber J text that I released. Okay. I released that because everyone knows she released the text of mine first. She released one of mine first. I released that because I saw clips in the documentary where she was making me out to be some desperate, pathetic loser who couldn't move on, who couldn't do that, who's pathetic. And it was always bothering her and, making me out something I'm not. And knowing what I knew behind the scenes, I had to release that because it proved that, number one, I wasn't the only one reaching out. It proved that she still cared, although she told the world I was the public and all this stuff. It proved that that narrative she was spinning on that documentary was wrong. Okay. I released that after she released one of my texts and all that stuff. And then was I wrong in doing it? Probably. I should have done it. That's fine. But I had to show that I wasn't pathetic because that's the narrative she was spinning. That her family was calling me that. And then Gypsy released something very personal, very below the belt, very straight for the jugular type, very something that I don't feel like I have to talk about. Something I feel like I have grown tremendously from. Number one, I've been a better person, got a college degree, did all this stuff. She knew she was below the belt. She knew it, but she did it. I confronted her. I text her dad to tell her like, hey, so I wouldn't bother her, like, hey, do that. Tell her that I don't appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. Then she released that text. And then I'm talking about it because I need to get it off my chest. Okay. So those people saying, why are you talking about it? Why are you talking? Because I need to get it off my chest. It happened. It's recent. It leads to everything that's happened. Okay. So I'm talking about it. And this is my live. If you don't like it, like I said, here's a.
Again. No matter how respectfully he tried to approach things, Ryan said Gypsy found a way to twist it and escalate it. He insisted this wasn't about drama. It was about dignity. About defending himself without playing dirty. But by then, it seemed clear that Gypsy wasn't interested in a real conversation. she wanted to cause pain. And unfortunately, she succeeded. That's when Ryan's close friend, Bree, entered the chat, literally. She went live herself, teasing that she had some major dirt on Ryan. She didn't drop any receipts, didn't say what the secret was, but the threat was loud and clear. This wasn't about protecting anyone. This was a warning shot. Ryan admitted that it made him nervous. For a moment, he feared what might come next. But he stood his ground. In his own live, he said he refused to be bullied by Gypsy, by Bree, or by anyone else trying to use secrets as weapons. That fear tactic? It may have worked before. But not this time. Not anymore. Then came Gypsy's apology video, the now infamous clip where she sat in front of a camera, voice trembling just enough to feel emotional. But to Ryan? It rang hollow. The first red flag? She didn't even reach out to him privately beforehand. No call. No message. Just a public performance for the internet. To Ryan, it felt less like an apology and more like image control. His own mother watched the video and cried, not because she believed it, but because it reopened old wounds. Wounds that Gypsy had caused. That moment cemented something for Ryan: the apology wasn't real. And then came the lies. One that stood out the most was when Gypsy claimed Christy hadn't spoken to her in 3 weeks, but Ryan quickly called that out. Christy had just attended her parole hearing not long before. She was literally there, showing support.
Video at the Jazz Fest, and we've won the graphic so far, just to let you know. All right, so then she releases the video where she's threatening me, blah 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 blah. Pixie, what you doing, baby? Anyway, she does that. Right? I don't know how to respond. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I can't believe you did that. Number one, I know how impulsive she is. I married her. I know her. Okay. I know how impulsive she is. And I know she doesn't think before she acts a lot of times. And that's fine. I get it. But releasing that was a low blow. I didn't appreciate it. I didn't find it funny. I didn't find it cute. But the fact that she threatened me on it after kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And Sunday night, right? So I see that Sunday night, her friend gets on a live and they start saying how like they have this big dark secret about me, blah, 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 blah. And, like going along with the narrative that Gypsy spewed threatening me. Like if I keep talking about Gypsy, they're going to release this deep, dark secret and Ryan better stop and da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay. Monday morning, she wakes up and somebody told her that she was wrong, I guess, because all of a sudden she releases an apology flyer. An apology flyer on her TikTok and Instagram with crying eyes saying, "I'm sorry" to me. Okay. I saw that. Okay. Thank you for that.
So why pretend otherwise? Ryan didn't sugarcoat it. He called it what it was: manipulation. Twisting timelines. Bending facts. Playing on people's emotions. To him, that wasn't remorse, it was strategy. Then there was the claim that Ryan was harassing Gypsy about baby Aurora, but Ryan laid out the truth: all he wanted was a paternity test. Given everything surrounding her pregnancy and their complicated past, he felt it was a fair request. And at first, Gypsy agreed. They were texting civilly. It almost felt like a truce. Until she suddenly told him that Ken didn't want him around the baby. That moment changed everything. Ryan admitted he was caught off guard, and he got angry. In a moment of frustration, he said something blunt, that if he really wanted to see the baby, he could show up with the police and no one could stop him. He owned it. Said it wasn't a threat, just a heated reaction. And he apologized immediately after. But Gypsy didn't share that part. Instead, she posted only the angry message, out of context, to make him look unstable and aggressive. Ryan said it was deliberate, a setup. And when Gypsy later showed up at his place, without warning and allegedly with the police, it confirmed everything. She hadn't even texted to say she was coming. No heads up. No explanation. Nothing. Ryan believed they wanted a reaction. maybe even footage of him snapping to fit their narrative. But he didn't give them that. He stayed calm. In his words, "They wanted chaos, but I gave them control." When he later brought up how underhanded the ambush felt, Gypsy tried to pass the blame to Christy, claiming it wasn't her idea. But Ryan wasn't buying it. If she truly hadn't wanted to be part of it, she could have said something. Sent a text. Anything. To him, her silence meant complicity. Then Ryan addressed the TMZ article accusing him of using a homophobic slur toward Ken. He didn't deny it.
Comes the apology video. Okay, the apology video. All right, watching the apology video, number one, first and foremost, you should have called me first. If you were truly sorry, you should have called me first. That's what I would have done. But that's what anybody would do. You release a flyer, you release an apology video, because the apology wasn't for me. It was for people who were ragging on you, and it was damage control. Let's call it like it is. It is what it is. It was not for me. It was damage control, because you realized you went too far, and your people probably told you, whoa, this is not cool. She got a lot of backlash for it. She got a lot. I saw videos of people tearing her up, and I'm not for that. I'm not. This whole time, guys, it's not me to bring somebody down. It's not. I'm in the business of uplifting people. I'm in the business of making people feel good about themselves. I'm in the business of trying to be the bigger person and being the better person. And I feel like I am the better person in a lot of aspects. Am I human? Absolutely. Do I make mistakes? Absolutely.
He owned it outright. He admitted he was wrong, said it came from a place of frustration, not hate, and that he regretted it deeply. He apologized to anyone who was hurt by his words. But what stung the most, he said, wasn't the public backlash, it was knowing that Gypsy helped make the story public. She had promised in her earlier video that she wouldn't attack him anymore. That she wanted peace. But instead, she let his lowest moment become another weapon against him. For Ryan, that betrayal cut deep. And then came the biggest twist of all. For months, the public believed Gypsy was the one being manipulated in her relationship with Ken. But Ryan flipped the narrative. He claimed it's Ken who holds all the power and uses it to control Gypsy. According to Ryan, anytime Gypsy even thinks about doing something Ken doesn't like, he threatens to take baby Aurora away. Ryan said Ken had done this more than once, and even called Gypsy names in private. To him, it painted a picture of emotional control and manipulation. Ryan didn't say this lightly, his tone suggested these were things Gypsy had told him directly, in confidence. So now we're left with some big questions. Was Gypsy confiding in Ryan to gain sympathy? Was she painting Ken as a villain to keep the emotional door open between them? Or was she genuinely stuck in a toxic dynamic? Either way, Ryan's claims turned the entire situation upside down. He ended the live by saying he barely scratched the surface. He's even considered writing a book, but joked that if Gypsy's half-truths could make the bestseller list, imagine what his version could do. He also announced plans to start posting on his YouTube channel soon, because, in his words, if she can tell her story online, so can I. Right now, he's focusing on healing and protecting his mental health. But make no mistake, Ryan Anderson isn't done talking. So what do you think Gypsy will do next? Is Ryan still holding back more? And if he drops that book, are you reading it? Let me know in the comments. Something tells me this drama is far from over.